All right, so this is my last lecture for the class. We're going to do educational supervision. Then next week will be a review with the group projects. So for the last lecture, I'm really going to try to talk about some supervision techniques that you might want to use, ways that you can structure the supervisory chain of your program in order to kind of support your program. Most of us have come up from being teachers. So we started off as preschool teachers, infant toddler teachers, or FCC teachers. So we probably have a really good handle on supervising children. So we know ratios, we know issues with supervision, we know how to talk to parents about supervision of the little people in our lives. But now this whole class has really kind of been about child development, but from a little bit back. How do you manage other people supervising and taking care of children? That's kind of been the kind of main point of this class. So how do you supervise adults? So not supervising the little ones in our lives, but supervising the adults who take care of the little ones that we have been put in charge of providing education for. So you're going to have to do a couple of different things. You're going to have to supervise those teachers, and you're also going to have to monitor and control and set up a system of controlling what happens in your program for both quality and compliance. So monitoring is really observing for compliance with standards and regulations. So we know we have community care licensing, which is a really big deal, health and safety of the children. We have that kind of built into our programs in California, is that we need to be following licensing regulations all the time across the board in all areas. They come annually at least to make sure that we are doing that. And then also it's the rights of the parents as well to call whenever they have issues as well. So we should all be, if you are working in a licensed care facility, you should know a lot about licensing. 150 does go more into that. So if you felt a little insecure about licensing, definitely check out the 150 class in the fall. And we also need to do with standards as well. So beyond what licensing says, we might be accredited with NECPA or NIAC. We might do the military system as well does inspections for standards as well. Montessori has their own independent one. And then just personal standards that you might have for your center and how you want it to be run. And standards could also include ECHRs, like our environmental rating scales as well. So we have both standards and regulations, and a supervisory technique is ways of monitoring this to make sure that that is happening, and we'll talk more about that in the later slides. Then we have controlling, and I know controlling has really bad connotations with it, like you don't want to work for a controlling manager, we don't want to work for a controlling director, but we mean, and this is very well thought out and very well written in our textbook as well, is controlling in that you state what your standards and your measuring performance is, and you train for that as well. So we state, this is how you act on the playground. This is what our ratios are. This is how you write a lesson plan. Then you train for those standards, and then you measure their performance as well to make sure that they are doing that. So that's controlling. We've talked about this in depth throughout the class. We've written job descriptions. We've talked about plan of actions. We've talked about grievance procedure. So we've kind of already set up this within our operational file, and that your teachers need to have really clear policies, procedures, and rules. They need to be trained in how to do that either by yourself or by a teacher. And then at the end, when we're evaluating and assessing, we need to measure their performance based on the policies and procedures that we've already written. So that's kind of what we mean by monitoring and controlling. So what standards are applying? We definitely follow licensing. And then we have ECHRs. We also have Quality Preschool Initiative as well, if you get money or funds from them, the state as well. I bring these up again because we should be meeting them and then thriving, hopefully, under these regulations and standards. So if you're just living to meet the standards or the rest regulations, that's probably not a very fun workplace for anybody. It's kind of like why we've gone into Common Core with our elementary school students, is we realized that just teaching to the test, or it doesn't provide a lot of educational understanding for the students. You know, they kind of leave school and they know how to take tests, but they don't know how to do anything else. It's kind of like this with our teachers. If we're only in our preschools and our infant toddler and our school age programs, meeting the regulations, so we're just providing healthy and safe environments, we're probably not having any fun. We're probably, and the children are going to feel that, and we're probably not having an educational program that is saying what we're supposed to. So you need to go beyond the regulations and the standards by using some of these supervisory techniques. I think the really interesting thing that the textbook had as well is, how do you evaluate the regulations and standards? How do you evaluate the quality of your program? How do you evaluate if you are living up to those standards and regulations? And I think the really interesting one was children. And I hadn't really thought about this in a long time. Actually, since I've been in grad school, I did a program in London, and it's kind of a child rights program. So kind of talking about the very specific UN rights of the child, the United Nations rights of the child, and how it's kind of like this global idea to have children participate in their world, to be protected by their world, to have provisions of like healthcare and food and water provided for them within the world. And so I did my own little thing on bilingual education, so that's what my thesis was on. But I remember reading this really interesting article where they had children assess the quality of their program. Most people think it's just by how happy the children are. And not every child's always happy. You're always going to have a biter in the 2-year-old classroom. You're always going to have a 3-year-old that's having challenging behaviors. But generally, are children happy to get to your program? Are they generally excited? They're having fun. You go in, you see smiles. There's lots of loud talking and laughing when you go into the classroom. You kind of know as teachers if they're having fun, or if they're scared, or if they're unhappy, or if they're stressed, or transitions aren't working well. You can kind of tell by the behavior of the children. This thing that I was thinking about was really interesting. They actually gave children cameras, and they asked them to photograph their favorite parts of their kindergarten classroom. So I think it was actually pre-K, what is pre-K and what is kindergarten over in England. And so they gave them little, it was actually, I mean, this was a while ago, so it was actually those just like disposable ones that you get developed at the drugstore. But you could definitely do it with little cheapy digital cameras as well. And they actually asked the children to rate the quality of their program by having them take pictures of what they liked and what they didn't like in their program. Then they had all the pictures printed out, and then the children, they dictated, or had the children dictated to the teachers, or the children wrote it themselves if they were capable, about what the pictures meant to them. And it was really interesting that they liked very specific parts of the playground, other parts of the playground they really didn't like. And this is something we could do by observing children as well, where they're hanging out and things like that. Friend groups that they liked, nap times, the parts of nap time that they did or didn't like. There was actually like a scary part of the classroom that nobody really wanted to nap in. So it was really interesting. I think we could probably use this. I mean, this was a research study done by researchers, so it was quite a large thing. But I think it's an interesting idea of giving children cameras, or finding some ways to get more tangible information from them on how they like their program and changes that we could make. And that might influence the kind of behaviors that we're doing in the classroom, and then how the teachers are teaching as well. Then families as well, same with children. If they're happy to be there, if they're not complaining, if they're upset when you're off for a day, if they have close bonds with you and the teachers in the classroom, you generally know that the parents are happy about their program. Or when they leave your program, they offer really positive experiences on Yelp, or great schools, or whatever it is, or they refer friends and family to your program. You can also do it more formal as well. You can ask specifically about the program. A checklist is, I probably wouldn't leave it open-ended. I would probably do a questionnaire or a checklist in order to see if there are certain areas like drop-off or pickup or hours or fees, or what that was generally for most of my population, good or bad in the eyes of a teacher. Management as well. Management in this case is evaluated. That's typically what they're talking about, is having teachers, families, boards, then evaluate the management to see if there's issues that the management can do to make their programs better. So typically a manager has somebody above them, or a board above them, or something like that, and then the teachers below them that can generally, once again with questionnaires and checklists and things like that, get an overall picture of where that manager is meeting the needs of their program. Is there a certain area like facilities, or policy written communication, like being able to write policies and procedures, where they can improve on and what are their strengths as well. Maybe their strengths are in supporting teachers. That type of thing, that gives us a chance as well to figure out in the new year or in the coming months after the evaluation is done, how we can change ourselves to better meet the needs of our teachers and then the families who also work with us. And then board accreditation, boards also evaluate the quality of a program. Accreditation, NIAC and NECPA. Inspections do that as well. In the military system, you get quite a lot of inspections. I know within Head Start and things like that, they might not call them inspections. But if your program director is coming to your center and has arranged a time to do a walkthrough with other people, you might want to consider that an inspection time. They are going to be looking at the quality of your program, what it looked like, using their 5 senses like our parents do. What does it look like? What does it smell like? Are the children having fun? That type of thing. And then licensing, as always, is figuring out the evaluation of your program, but they're looking from the very specific healthy and safe standpoint as well. All right, so I do want to talk about job coordination. And this is kind of an organizational structure that I'll talk about on the next slide as well. So who reports to whom if there are concerns, and who do I reach out to next? So if an aide has an issue with lesson planning, who is the next person that she's going to reach out to for help? Is she going to go to the program director who is managing 6 sites? Probably not. I know as a program director, I would take that call gladly, but I would probably be a little bit miffed that, you know, I was being asked about lesson planning when I'm trying to coordinate multiple sites with maybe hundreds of employees. Okay, so what is the aide confused? Does she not know who she's supposed to talk to next? Should she have gone to the teacher, a lead teacher, a mentor teacher, assistant director, director, site supervisor? That's what I mean by organizational structure, and I will show you that. So this is kind of what I came up with. I wanted you to show that these are real people with real jobs. So at the top of it is your program director or your board or whoever it is who is above you. Most likely you're a site supervisor, site supervisor, director, assistant director, whatever your title is. And there's often somebody with a similar position next to you, especially if you're in a large organization like Head Start, and the military system has trainers. Or you could have assistant director here, or you could have 2 site supervisors, whatever it is, kind of is. And then under that is the mentor lead teachers and then the classroom teacher. So if the classroom teacher had an issue with something like lesson planning or challenging behaviors, then the next thing would be for the classroom teacher to go to a mentor or a lead teacher. If that person couldn't answer it or help her, then she would go to the trainer. Then if the trainer was having issues, she could go to the site supervisor, who could then go to the program director. So this is just a way, and you might consider, you can literally Google organizational structure and they will give you, or even I think it's on Microsoft as well, they'll give you little boxes where you could write this. So you could write an organizational structure for your school or your program in about 5 minutes if you needed to. This just really offers a chance for you to really standardize who talks to who. So if a classroom teacher had an issue with a really angry parent with biting, maybe she wouldn't even go to the mentor lead teacher. Maybe she would just toss it all the way to the site supervisor before the parent leaves, or reach out in that moment to that site supervisor. But if it's something like lesson planning or some like cleaning your center or something, cleaning a room, cleaning a center in your classroom, then maybe that's what mentor lead teachers are for. So this is just a way so that you can have an organizational support system for your teachers so they know who to reach out to next when you're having problems. And that's not to say that an aide can't talk to a program director. If there's huge concerns in the classroom, she absolutely wants to, but maybe not something like cleaning a sink or how to mix bleach when you have a mentor lead teacher who can support you in that. All right, span of control. This was huge when I worked in the military. It's really how much staff report to one manager. So it was set by Congress for the military that when I was there, the training and curriculum specialist, which was what I was. So I was similar to an assistant director, or I'm similar to a director. I could only manage 40 to 44 employees at once. So anything more than that, there needed to be 2 trainers in order to do that. Because we had a lot of classroom issues that we had to handle, and then we had to train and supervise all of the teachers in the classroom. So any more than 44 was really just too much of a workload. Most centers only had 1 with 40 to 44 teachers. and support staff, and then like 150 to 200 students, depending on how many you could get in a specific program. So then when I worked at a center that had 350 children, there were 2 trainers, 2 assistant directors, 1 site supervisor director, and then there were 80 or 90 staff members. A lot. And that's why I say more staff, more problems. It's really not problems. I don't think of my employees as problem children or issues to be solved, but the more people you have, the more people who need to get off for leave, the more people who are competing to be off during the holidays, the more people who can call out sick, the more people who need help during open enrollment with their HR, the more people that need to go to sexual harassment training once a year or who need to be trained for CPR and first aid. So the more staff that you have, the more little puzzle pieces and moving parts there are to coordinate to keep the program running. So in that we have ratios of teachers to children, 1 to 12, 1 to 4, whatever it is, we should also consider a ratio of staff to manager. So if you are a very small program in our FCC, it's just you and your person, or if you're like a 2 or 3 room classroom, if you are a program with only 2 to 3 classrooms, the same type of thing, you are quite small, this isn't going to really impact you. But the larger you get, the more that you want to consider that you need to have that a manager can only manage a certain amount of people before things are going to slide. And I would say that's in the 30 to 40% employee number range. Anything kind of more than 40 to 50 is a lot for one person to handle. I would probably say that if you're one director, any more than 20 is going to be really, really difficult. You're going to need an assistant director, and that includes support staff. So you're going to need an assistant director and an enrollment coordinator, a trainer, something like that. And it can be on a consultant basis. It doesn't have to be a full-time basis. But you are going to need some help considering you have health, safety, facilities, food, and CPR, employee files, children files, educational supervision. What else have we kind of gone over? Fiscal management, organizational management, leadership, staff meetings, staff trainings. There's just a lot. I mean, we've spent 16 weeks going over this. So for one person to do that for a lot of people is probably setting you up for failure. So the bigger you get, or the more programs you have, if you're a program director, and the more sites you have, you need to consider supporting management as well in order to be the best managers that they can. I do want to talk about some supervisory techniques that I've used and a lot of people use. None of this is really earth-shattering things, but I want to talk about how we can use it to support the educational supervision and make sure that our programs are the best that they can be. Okay, so a daily check-in. So what do you need? Who's off? Who called out sick? What baby needs to be sent home? Who has a suspicious rash? Like just getting the feel of your classroom. Like what's going on today? What are the issues that I need to tackle? I probably have my to-do list of things that I need to do, but I need to check in with my teachers and make sure that their day is going good and they don't need me to call anybody or talk to anybody or figure out something in the classroom or the computers are down, what's kind of going on. Like it's a pulse check of the day and your teachers and the children in your program. So you probably do that, not first thing in the morning, but soon after arriving in the morning. A spontaneous check-in, I need to go out to the shed. I'm going to walk through 3 of my preschool classrooms on my way there just to say hi and see how lunchtime is going. Then walk through at difficult times. A lot of people think, oh, it's transition. I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to. No, you need to be there during transitions, during playgrounds, during drop-off, during pickup, all of those difficult times, because if your program's not running well at the difficult times, then you're only as good as you are at your most difficult time. So if the teachers are really struggling with providing supervision on playgrounds or handling the supervision, the transition between lunch and nap, then you need to be there to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to, maybe changing some things, helping them change things, giving them permission to change their classroom structure or moving children around. There's a lot of different things that you can do and ways that you can support this through them, but you need to see what we are at our worst, because we're never better than we are at our worst. Okay, check in on new staff as well. You have a new hire, getting your face out there, checking in with them, making sure that they are doing all the things that they're supposed to. Do they know how to do food handling? Do they know how to mix bleach? Do they know about lesson planning and things like that? In your organizational structure, your organizational chart, you'd also get this from a lead teacher or a mentor teacher, but you also want to have some face time with that person as well, because if they're having issues and if anybody is complaining, you're the one who's going to be complained to, and you're the one that's ultimately responsible for their behavior in the classroom. So getting a sense of how well they're doing as well. And then unfortunately, sometimes you have to cut bait early on somebody. Maybe this is not the right age for them. Maybe they need to get out of the infant toddler classroom and into the preschool, or maybe just education or education for young children is not where they need to be. You're gonna have to put them on a plan of action and then maybe try to get them out of the program or into a program that is better suited for their needs as a teacher. And then check in on challenging behaviors, if teams are struggling, if they're storming or norming, like we talked about weeks ago, where they're just coming together, they're struggling to work with each other, checking on them in the not bad times, but difficult times of the classroom. Any challenging behaviors that you're having with specific children, biters or special needs or anything like that. And if parents are complaining as well, checking in on those things as well. So observations, not of children, of your teachers. So through a teacher, you can do it formally and informally. So you can do it as part of their employment, so more formal observation, or just generally, how are they working? Are they working well during transitions? Are they not? How is my team working? Just getting a sense, also getting a sense of like, how's family style dining? Do I need to do another training? How are all the teachers doing on that? So I'm gonna walk around at snack time and I'm gonna see how it's going. Eckers as well is a great way to observe your classroom. So does your classroom need materials? Do they need support? Are they working well? What's going well? What's not going well? And Eckers is our environmental rating scale for a lot of different ages. If this is new to you or you want to learn more about it, we have a whole class about Eckers that's fantastic. That will really, it's a whole class worth of material really to train people and how to use it appropriately. And that's why I'm so glad that Palomar has it. And then also looking at the team and the ability to work as a team. And there's a lot of checklists online about this, like team building and things like that. Like how well do they support each other? How well do they work together? Are they not working together? How can we support them to be a better team player? There's a lot of checklists about teams that you can use as well. So you've observed formally or informally. What do you do with these observations? So a formal observation is sometimes part of employment, so it's linked in with raises, or your formal assessment or evaluation that you're doing yearly or bi-yearly or tri-yearly. It can also be part of a plan of action, so that might be the support that you offer to a person who's struggling, is that you're going to have formal observations to see how they're doing and offer them training based on those observations. And then you can also use your observations, the formal or informal ones, to make changes in staffing in groups and teams. So if your Eckers is showing certain issues, then you need to make changes. You do a plan of action based on what the Eckers is telling you. Also with our observations of our teachers as well. So do we need to move children groups, primary groups? Do we need to get a teacher out of a classroom? How are we going to support them to make these changes in the classroom? Then classroom support as well. So spending more time in the classroom to support teachers with challenging aspects. So a toddler who's biting, a difficult parent who's been difficult at pickup, you should be there at pickup to see it. Does it stop when you're there or does it continue? That would give you a lot of information about the parent. If it stops when you're there, that parent knows that they're being inappropriate and you need to have a conversation. If it continues with them, they don't know that they're being inappropriate and you still need to have a conversation where you explain to them what's inappropriate behavior and what's not. Special needs as well. How can you support and be super inclusionary? Like I've talked about before, like wheelchairs, very easy. You just make the aisles bigger, but you're going to need to be in your classroom and see what the child needs, see what the staff needs in order to help them support that child in the classroom. What kind of materials do they need or want? I always had a want list and a need list because sometimes in some of my jobs the money would be there, but it would be there super fast. So I'd only have a limited amount of time in order to order things. So I always had kind of a need and want list going on. It was either in my head, but it was better if I had kind of lists of things that I had and where I could get them from community playthings or something like that. Because sometimes you'll get grants really fast or money will come through, especially if you're state or federal, you'll get these pockets of money that kind of become available and then they're no longer available. And so you kind of have to really meet that need as fast as possible. And then another way that you can support your classrooms is arrange for community services to support children in the classroom. So we've had, I've had speech therapists or a speech therapist and an intern, like somebody who's going to get their master's to be a therapist, occupational, physical, or speech therapy. Those people have come to our programs and for a summer or a limited amount of time have taught their intern how to work with children and then also provided their services. So if we had little ones that maybe needed additional support, or you can have like Palomar Family Counseling come in. They can either support the families by like doing Incredible Years training, or they can support the children in the classroom as well. We used to have through Regional Center that early interventionists will come out and work with the child in the classroom. That's on the way out. We're doing, because I'm an early interventionist, we're doing it more now with the family. So if I was to do it in a daycare or a preschool, the parents would have to be present so that I could help the parents learn how to work with their child with special needs or challenging behaviors. I would also work with the school, but it wouldn't just be for the school, it'd be for the parent and child relationship. That's the primary relationship we're working at. But there are a lot of community services that you can pay to have to come into your program, like you can do those afternoon soccer clinics, which parents seem to love, or those gym buses that come and parents pay an additional fee. Parents love that. And it's a way to support the classroom, get some energy out, especially in the summer. Or you can have like pottery. Like I would do that in the summer, like once or twice with school age, like have the paintable place people come out. They'll have the classrooms paint something, the parents pay for it, then they take it, they fire it, and then they come back and deliver it. Most like pottery places, those patron pottery places, do things like that for you. So like community services and like fun things that support the classroom and curriculum, and then like actual community services like Palomar Family Counseling or challenging behavior information or regional center or something like that to support children in the classroom as you're going through maybe some issues with like families and mental health and things like that. Then managing the needs of teachers. So we're all really good as classroom teachers or former classroom teachers or people who just know children. We know that each child is different. We have to meet the needs of the individual learner. Each child learns in specific ways. We're all really good about that. Now we need to manage the needs of the teachers so that they can support children, because each teacher has their own way that they learn best, and each teacher has the way that they're managed best. So as a manager, what do they need from you? So you do kind of change yourself a little bit in order to meet the needs of your manager. I'm consistently who I am. You know, I'm a people person. I love to do walkthroughs. My favorite management position when I was a trainer, because I wasn't the director, so I didn't have to worry about payroll. I did a little bit of budget, but not that much. Most of my day was spent supporting teachers, working with kids with special needs or challenging behaviors, supervising staff in the classroom. That's what I love. I love being on my feet and talking with people. I met with lots of parents. That was like the ultimate management position for me. So I have this general management personality, but then in a classroom, I knew either on their personality or how they learned, how I needed to change myself and how I managed and how I communicated to meet the needs of each person in my program. And that's why more than 40 was really difficult, because you might have 5 people that learn in a different way and 10 people that learn in another way. So I was writing a lot, I was talking a lot, I was showing pictures a lot, trying to meet those needs of the learners, and then also managing them. I use the love languages of management, which I'll talk about. So if you've probably all heard the love languages before, I got it when I first moved in with my boyfriend, who's now my husband. It's a great book about each person has a way that they show love and how they like to receive love. Most people have already heard of it. And it's really great for marriages and relationships. Gary Chapman, the man who wrote it with a management kind of guru as well, and it's called The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. Same idea though, you have a way that you like to be managed and a way that you manage others. Knowing how you provide management and how you want to have management provided to you can help you be the best manager that you can. So for example, acts of service. So if you had a teacher who their language of appreciation or love language was acts of service. So they like people to do things for them. So they don't really need like gifts and they don't need people to tell them what a great job they're doing. You tell them how awesome they are and how much you appreciate them by helping them do things. So you could stay after work or during lunch and help a teacher clean a room if that was a need that they showed that they have. You could bring food after a long day of work, or if you just had licensing come, it went okay, but everybody was super stressed, or NIAC just came and you've been accredited and you guys have been working crazy hours in the 2 weeks leading up to the accreditor coming. That afternoon after they leave, you go out and you buy everybody Subway sandwiches or something like that. I actually had a teacher tell me to do this. We had, in the military system, we had the Department of Defense's military inspectors come. So this is a really big deal. They could literally shut you down. I don't think they ever had on Camp Pendleton, but they had in like Yuma or somewhere like this. So we were really, really stressing. I mean, I was working 12-hour days. I was redoing all these policies and procedures. I was in the classroom. I was scrubbing floors. And I wasn't being the best manager that I could be. I wasn't really supporting my staff because I was such a bundle of stress myself. One of my teachers was like, we all need to go to happy hour as soon as these people leave. And I was like, we do need to go to happy hour. So instead we had, I think it was, I don't know, it was like Jersey Mike's or something, come in the next day and provide subs and iced tea. I mean, we obviously can't drink at work, but that was our version of happy hour to say thank you for kind of this. And for me, you know, part of this came out of my money was to be like, I'm sorry that I was a bundle of stress. I'm sorry that I wasn't the manager that I should have been. I really appreciate all of you guys and the hard work that you have put into this kind of accreditation and inspection that we were going. Another way is to help a teacher set up a computer or an iPad with a new app or a new system in order to be more productive. So you're doing concrete things to help them. And for people that their language of appreciation is active service, this means more than telling them great job. And it means more than, you know, kudos in front of the whole group. They want kind of the concrete things. So the 5 languages of appreciation, there's some resources online. It's also an ebook, Kindle as well. And you don't necessarily need to buy this book, but just kind of understanding that people need different things from you is going to be really, really helpful. So then we've talked about supporting classrooms, supporting teams, monitoring and controlling for quality. How do you kind of combine all of this stuff? Because we are appreciating and supporting teachers and teams that might all be different, but we need to be really consistent with our evaluations, assessments, and supervisory techniques for all. So they might need something different from you. When it comes to the policies and procedures, they have to be implemented and controlled and monitored consistently for everybody. It doesn't matter who they are or how they learn. They still have the same evaluation procedures. They still have the same assessment procedures. They still get a plan of action if they do the wrong thing. You know, they still have to be doing supervisory parts of their job no matter what, no matter how they're learning. So you can appreciate and support 2 teachers in one classroom in very different ways, depending on how they want to be appreciated and how they want to be supported. But they both have to do ECHRs. So they still have to do an environmental rating scale, and I'm going to do it as well at their classroom. And they're still going to have the same yearly evaluation process. And if they screw up, they're going to have the same plan of action. So that's kind of how you have to keep it consistent, even though we know that everybody is an individual. So in conclusion, we want our supervision to be daily, to be consistent and the same for everybody, and it needs to be regularly scheduled. So it's happening for everybody on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Plus, you need a lot of conscious effort to support teachers. So you can't just do the same for everybody. You need to consciously think about what different people and personalities you have in your program. If you do this and you are consistent with your supervision, so you're monitoring and you're controlling daily as needed, then you will set up a program that's healthy, that's safe, and that really meets the educational standards that you set for your program. All right, that's it for this week. I will see you guys online. Next week will be a review, and it will also be group projects. So for the review for this class, what I do is I'm going to give you 8 essay questions. You guys can read through them. You can write to them. I'm just going to release them. I'm not going to grade them. You don't have to send them back to me. This is just so that you can see it. If you have specific questions, email me. So don't resubmit it to me or give it to me. If you have a specific question, please email me and I can help you. But otherwise, you're getting 8 essay questions. Of those 8, I'm going to pick 4. If you did 155 with me, it's basic. It's not the same questions, but it's the same kind of format. Each one is worth 10 points. and each question is worth 10 points. I pick 4 of them for a total of 4, but I will release 8 questions the week before. You'll have a chance all week long to work through those 8 questions. I'll pick 4, I'll release them as the final, and that's it as well. So thanks so much, and I'll see you online.